after leaving former public office, he has remained an outspoken participant in national conversations about democracy, about leadership, about governance, and the future of Nigeria. He speaks with authority of someone who has witnessed Nigeria across several generations and participated directly in many of the institutions that shaped its public life. Ambassador Dr. Yemi Farumbi is an exceptionally fitting, distinguished discussant at this third global discourse of Validity View Network, bringing to the conversation a rare combination of media experience, diplomatic exposure, intellectual depth, and decades of public service. As a veteran broadcaster who rose through the ranks of Nigerian television leadership, a media administrator, an educator, a writer, former ambassador of Nigeria, and a respected public affairs commentator, Farumbi has spent much of his life examining the forces that shape society and influence the direction of nations. His reputation for intellectual independence, forthrightness, and thoughtful engagement makes his contribution particularly valuable to a global platform designed to provoke meaningful conversations about the contemporary challenges and possible pathways forward. At 81, his continued willingness to interrogate Nigeria's political, social, and media landscape demonstrates that he is not merely a participant in public discourse, but one of its experienced architects. The third global discourse, therefore, gains not only a distinguished disconsent in Ambassador Farumbi, but a living reciprocity of experience whose voice connects Nigeria's past, its realities presently, and the possibility of its future. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Ambassador Yemi Farumbi.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. That's our Baba in the house, former secretary to the Oyo State government. That was a very beautiful one. May God continue to keep you for us, sir.
Thank
May
you very
God
much.
continue to strengthen you.
Thank you.
And we want to appreciate you for encouraging us. Oh, we now have in our midst the chairman of our advisory council, and we have to defer the program for us to specially welcome, for him to specially welcome Baba Farumbi. So I may be, I know I'm permitted to use Baba repeatedly anyway, but for those, I want to believe everyone understands what Baba means. So, Mr. Chairman, sir, can we listen to you, sir?
Thank you, Prof. I'm indeed glad to be part of this program today, having my two fathers in the profession being with me. I have Baba Ambassador Farumbi, Yemi Farumbi, who is my father in all sense of it. That was the person that gave me my first job in life in 1976. Thank God he's still much alive and is the architect of whatever Nandi Ogundipe is today. Baba, you are welcome, sir. I thank my boss, Baba Bisi Adeshola. You see, the journey is long. I will not want to take undue advantage of this program to start rolling them out. But these two people have contributed immensely to what Lanre Ogundipe is today. I remember when I lacked support to contest election in 1997 for the national president of NUJ in Nigeria. Baba Bisi Adesola stood firmly in spite of the government's position that no, Lanre is representing Oyo and we must give him all the support. Baba, I thank you very much, sir. Baba Farumbi, like I said, is a road, a wide road that travels with whoever he has mentored in life. Baba, we promise that those of us who are your disciples, you may not be Jesus Christ, but to those of us in journalism, either in broadcast or print, we know the word of Yemi Farumbi if you talk about communication arts. And today, when you see, Prof was telling me about a few days back, so he wonder at my age that I'm so restless in writing. I said, if you have worked with Farumbi before or moved with him, you will know he's a restless person. He works 24 hours and his brain is intact. So where will I get my own from? If at my age, I cannot match up his intellectual prowess, his writing ability, his communication skills, then I'm not a true son of Yebi Farumbi. And I want to appreciate him more that he gladly, without me introducing Professor Ogujobi to him, to appear on this program. When Ogujobi told me, I said, you don't know this one you have invited. Baba, we want to tap from your wealth of experience this evening. And I know you'll be much obliged to expose some of the things that we are not truly in terms with to us in terms of governance. Because I knew Bolage lured you into politics. That much I knew. You are not a politician before, but Bolage did lured you into politics. Some of these things we want to hear from you today. We want to learn from your own experience. Don't let me waste our time to go into the program proper. I welcome everyone. I welcome Baba DBC, because when I call him that you are going to read the citation of your boss, he said, Larry, whatever you want, I will do. Baba, my brother Prof, I thank you very sincerely from the depth of my heart for this program that you brought on board. God bless everyone. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. We want to appreciate you. Mr. Larry Ogudupe is someone that, some of us have been following right before we left secondary school. So he has been at the top of journalism in Nigeria, while some of us were still struggling to gain admission into the university. And today he's still very energetic. I wonder at times you can see him writing about 4 or 5 different articles in a week. And at the point I had to challenge, I had to ask him how he has that time and that agility. Yes, we want to go straight to the game of today. Our global audience, you are going to enjoy listening to this program. It's going to be one of the best you have had in recent times. But before we go into the main topic, we've been seeing Baba Farumbi in white. We want to know the story behind the white attire. Before we now join in with the politics, how Bola Ige lured him into politics. Mr. Lagodwe had affirmed that Baba was not a politician, but was lured into politics. Over to you, sir. That will be the first salvo.
Thank you very, very much. It's a privilege to be invited to this series. And I'm excited because those who spoke about you to me are people I respect so much. And that means you are somebody worthy of respect. Where am I going anyway? I had a deputy in the embassy where I served in Philippines. He's from Gombe. He is a full-time, what you call the professional diplomat. He served in various embassies. When I became ambassador in Philippines and the Kingdom of Cambodia, he was my deputy. He was also a full-time ambassador, but he was my deputy. One day he called me. He said, as you wear white, as you wear blue, as you wear purple, But I think white fits you best. It fits your character, it fits your everything that you stand for. And that if I wouldn't mind, I should adopt white as my color. And because I respect him a lot, I still do. 12 years after we've departed from Manila, we are seeing daily contact. He's one of the unusual Nigerians I met in the public service. I'm a very privileged person. I've met unusual people, very, very unusual people. A lot of the things for which I receive credit is because I have unusual people around me. One of them is BC Adeshola. One of them is Larry Ugudipe. One of them is Buba Tekune. His Excellency Ambassador Buba Tekune. He's not retired. He's somewhere in Abuja, but he's from Gombe. He's the person who eventually persuaded me that the best color for me is white. That's why I'm white. Balaigi was an artist of mine when I was in NTV Ibadan. He was very popular in a discussion program, current affairs discussion program on Sundays. And I used to enjoy his intellectual contribution. I enjoyed his eloquence, his pronunciation, his enunciation, everything about him was excellent. So I told my people, anytime you are inviting to take part in that program, it's always a recorded one. Please let me know. So I will come down from my office, sit in the control room, just to hear him speak English. He spoke better English than English people. He spoke Hausa better than Hausa people. He spoke Igbo better than Igbo people.
Wow.
He spoke Latin. And of course, exceedingly brilliant when he speaks Yoruba. So I will come down and monitor him, analyzing issues, being logical, being objective. And before he comes out of the studio, I run away. But one day, I don't know what happened. He caught up with me. And he said, GM, I hear you come to monitor my program. I said, yes, because I like what you do. I like your intellect. I like your objectivity. And he said, can we have dinner together? I said, okay, we can. And you know what he gave me for dinner? Echo and akara. Just that's him, simple him. Eventually, I had to leave NTA, and I was going out of Nigeria. I was in fact in UK, trying to pursue other ambition, which was to make films. I was to make a film titled King Harry Crystal, the story of a black Yoruba man who eventually, as a descendant, became the king in Haiti, and who is reputed to have led the Haitian forces to defeat Napoleon forces then. That was what I was working on. And I received a phone call, and it was from Bola Ige. And he said, can I come and see you? I said, how did you find my number in UK? He said, you forget I'm a governor. I have access to security thing. Can I come and see you? I said, you can't come and see me now. Yeah, I will come and see you. Said, I went and saw him, and he said, now that you left NTA, my leaders started the first television in Africa. I want to be known for starting the best television in Africa. And I want you to be the one to be the handmaiden. I said, no, I don't want to work with politicians. My experience with politicians in NTA wasn't too exactly nice, so leave me out of it. He said, okay, all right, I'll leave you out of it, but are you ever going to come to Nigeria? I said, yeah, you know, I'll come on October 1, celebrate my birthday with my family and so on and so forth. And on that day at Liberty Stadium, I just saw him announcing that he has appointed me to assist him on radio and television broadcasting, particularly to establish what today is known as BCOS TV.
Yes.
That's how I got to work with him. And because we're on to a great thing, starting the best television in Africa, along with BC Adeshola and many others, Engineer Busari and so on. We had to make sure we were able to complete the job. And to be able to complete the job, he needed to have a second term. So I had to assist him in managing his image. That's how I go into politics. Not that I wanted to. So today I see myself as a professional in politics. I'm not a professional politician. Yeah. I'm just a professional who happens to be in politics to help shape ideas, to help develop concepts and new views, like you do now. You may not know it. By the time you've done the 12th episode of this program, then you know the enormous impact you are making, the kind of changes you are trying to introduce into the political governance system of Nigeria. And for this, I thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, thank you. We want to appreciate you for that, sir. Now we go into what we have for today. We are trying to trace the thin line. For those of us who did construction in secondary school, we remember that there will always be a thin, continuous line. So today, sir, where exactly does the boundary lie between patriotic truth-telling and national demarketing? And who determines when that line has been crossed? Why do we have this question? Let me provide the background. Last month, just like I stated earlier, we had issue of demarketing, storytelling, and things like that. And after then, there were a few some feedbacks. And we're trying to now demarcate when it exceeds patriotism and it gets to demarketing. So where does the boundary lies? And who determines the boundary? Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. The whole issue of demarketing or critique really arises because you beginning to think of the concept of freedom of expression. You are beginning to think of the concept of freedom of the press itself. You are beginning to think of the governing them. To what end? Making government accountable. You are beginning to think of transparency. And of course, you are beginning to think of making democratic choice. You cannot make a choice if you are not in a position to compare all the available options. And all the available options can only be made available to the public, to the electorate, who are going to make a choice at an election time if they are presented with the truth. So it is important for the public, for the electorate, to know the truth. It is on the basis of the truth that they make a choice about who to govern them. What platform should they use to govern them? What manifesto? What is their vision for the country or for the constituency? What is their capacity, their competencies to deliver on their vision? And what is their character? It's on this tripod that the people will begin to make a choice. And that has to be based on the truth. Now, for a critique, the person who is criticizing is analyzing, is a positive contribution to the society, is doing an evaluation. This is what the person you have elected is doing. This is what he promised to do. How far has he gone? Has he fulfilled on his promises? Or has he in part abandoned the path, that the vision that he promised the people? So the critique is a positive contributor, is doing an assessment, is doing an analysis. Whereas a demarketer has a negative objective, is determined from the origin. Not
power bank, mommy.
Go on, sir. Go on, sir. You can go on, sir. Hello, sir.
to
Can
do an
anybody hear me?
analysis, a truth, but to present a view. You tell people what to think. You seek to impose your own point of view on the public. You are not trying to fix the house. You are only trying to say, this house is trash. Don't rent it. Don't buy it. Whereas a critique is saying, this house is leaking. Let us fix it. This is how to fix it. So these are the differences between the person who wants to demarket, who from ab initio, either because of his personal pain or because of his political gain or because of a sense of guilt or because of a sense of frustration, wants the house to be burnt, whereas the critic wants to build the house. So the demarketer drives away investment from the country. It kills the morale of the young people. You imagine, they say Nigerian graduates are not employable.
Okay.
Who says that?
Good one.
What is the basis of that assessment? And a lot of people keep on repeating it. And very eminent people, some of them people educationists, some of them political leaders, some of them government leaders, Nigerian graduates are not employable. But I employ Nigerian graduates. I've worked Nigerian graduates all the 50 something years of my life in broadcasting or diplomacy. And they've been doing a good job. I've seen Nigerian graduates outside. There might be areas that we are not doing well enough. As a critic, you draw attention to the problem. You do not destroy the people. You discuss the problem. You do not discuss the people. So we lower the morale of people. The same people that you say are not employable are the ones that are japping into various countries and making monumental impact there. I remember when I got to Philippines, they told me, my very first press conference, that Nigeria is known for 419. There were very fraudulent people. There were corrupt people. We deceived people. And I laughed. And they said, why was I laughing? I said, because the word fraud is not Yoruba word. It's not Hausa. It's not Igbo. Corruption is neither a Nigerian language. Fraudulent is not a Nigerian language. Nor is it a Taglish or Filipino language. It's an English language. It's those who are corrupt, who have designed the word corruption for their own purposes. As for me, I cannot find the equivalent of a Nigerian language for the word corruption or 419 and so on and so forth. And from that point of view, they started looking at Nigeria from a different perspective. Oh, these people who coined the word corruption want to label Nigeria. And one prime minister said we were so fantastically corrupt. So then I told them, yes, if we are fantastically corrupt, they were our colonial mad power. So they must be the one who sowed the seeds of fantastical corruption. You know, so such generalization seek to demarket. It is designed purposefully to demarket. And let me just use a final example. Let me use Shifaulo in 1982. He was the leader of the UPN. He did a paper. He said, Nigeria economy, we are having problem. He did looked at all the various indices, foreign exchange, um, value of currency, industrial growth, and so on and so forth, and came to a conclusion that the ship of Nigeria economy was going to collapse if certain steps were not taken. That's what a critique does. It pairs opportunities. Said, are the things wrong. These are the 13 possible steps that you can take to realign the situation, to restructure the situation so that we will not end up with an economic depression. Of course, the president then, Shehu Shagari, sent his minister, his special advisor on economics was a professor, Professor Eduzian, professor of economics of the UI. Then they went all over the world and said that Aulo was a weeping Jeremiah. 3 months after that, what Aulo said would happen, happened. And Nigeria had to inflict on itself uh, a stabilization order, a state of emergency, precisely what the critics said. So when you have a democracy, you have to be careful that you are not demarketing. I know as an opposition politician, you want to make yourself attractive to the people. It must be from the point of view of ideas, from the point of view of vision, from the point of view of the truth, not from a negative point that you run down personalities or you avoid issues. Otherwise, you are not helping the people to make a reason and national choice. Now, where is the line? Difficult to say. I would define the line, the professionals. If the government take over, this is a dictatorship. You will no longer be having a democracy, a ruling elite. Finally, let me just
I think the network over there appears weak. Okay. I think while we are trying to resolve the issue of the network, uh, uh, can you hear me, sir? Okay, let me quickly go to Professor Samala Mande.
Yes, yeah, I can hear you clear, loud and clear.
Okay, sir. Let me quickly go to Professor Samala Mande. Please, let's bear in mind one very germane position pushed by Baba, and I love that so much. It is wrong. It is, not proper for anyone to say that Nigerian graduates are not employable. And unfortunately, when the first person that said it, many people who should know better also started amplifying it. I'm happy we have also heard from the word of wisdom of Baba today. It is a clear injustice to the system. And apart from affecting today, it has monumental effects on the future of the children that we are producing even from the universities. And that's why when our leaders make statements, either for political patronage or for any reason whatsoever, they must consider the effect of what they are saying at any point in time. So, Professor Samada Mande, is it possible for citizens to criticize Nigeria without unintentionally contributing to negative national branding? We know you are a branding expert. Is it possible, despite all the challenges, despite all the things that we have, particularly our influencers, what can they adopt? How possible is it for them to criticize without necessarily hurting the image of the country? Over to you, sir.
Good evening, distinguished members of this platform. Let me start by acknowledging the organizers, the Valid View Network. I must say that this is a great opportunity, a great moment to, in a way, interact with you. But let me just also say this on a lighter note. They are also not being fair to me that you are now bringing me together with my own father, that myself and my father are coming to discuss here. And as a matter of fact, I need to let you understand that I've been reading about Yemi Farumbi for so many years when I was studying mass communication. And this is a big masquerade. There is what you call in Igbo language, Ijele. So in Igbo, when you hear they talk about Ijele, Ijele means a big masquerade. So the Valid View Network succeeded by bringing a big masquerade this evening for this engagement. And I need to say that, as a matter of fact, Baba has unpacked all that we are supposed to discuss.
Yeah.
All that we're supposed to, in other words, to be talking about, he has unpacked them, analyzed them, summarized them, distilled them, positioned them, and placed them. However, because anywhere you have the elders, you are equally to have the Gen Z. So in this case, my own Gen Z dimension of your question is a situation whereby that question, it is yes. Citizens can effectively criticize. But where are they to criticize? So we have to first of all understand two dimensions here. We'll be talking about diagnostic criticism as well as demarketing communication. When we talk about diagnostic criticism, we're talking about criticism that is based on fact with also valuable ideas to support the criticism made. That is what we call criticism that is based on what we call diagnostic criticism. In other words, as you are diagnosing the challenge, then you should also try as much as you can, as you are doing that, equally try as much as you can to come up with the interventions that have been made. So that at the end of the day, you come up with solutions that will not a proper solution. So that at the end of the day, it will not be supported. That is what we are talking about diagnostic criticism. That diagnostic, because you have to diagnose it so that at the end of the day, you come up with solution and all that. Then the other one is the demarketing communication. And I'm very happy with what Baba talked about earlier because he has explained that in a way clearly. Talking about demarketing communication is any communication act, any communication ideas, any communication views, any communication concept, any communication strategy that we now put it with the intention of undermining the corporate existence of the country, that becomes a challenge. We need to get it clear that the nation Nigeria, because in the marketing parlance, we talk about marketing of products, and in this product, we talk about the physical product, and we talk about the non-physical product. So in this case, we talk about Nigeria as a product, and Nigeria as a product, we talk about Nigeria as a brand. And if Nigeria is a brand, what are those, ideas that are very, very important, that are core to Nigeria's situation? So in this case, one of the critical things that is very important for Nigerians is the idea of internal cohesion. Internal cohesion. And then because of that, we'll also be talking about issues that has to do with the brand promise. The brand promise.
Okay.
Then aside from that, we'll talk about the values, the Nigerian Nigerian values. We'll talk about the values. We'll talk about the cohesion. We will need to talk about the equity, because this one are the equity that the Nigeria holds. Because Nigeria as a brand has its own equity. And what are those equity that need to be protected? What are those equity that need to be guided? What are those equity that need to be sustained, to be projected positively? And those equity that what we are talking about, this is a thing that has to do with its, integrity. Then trust.
Prof,
Trust is pretty.
a moment, Prof. Can you give us a more information about the brand promise? You mentioned that in passing. I want you to educate us more on that, please.
Oh, talking about the brand promise, for example, that is to say that what the nation promise its stakeholders. Because
Okay.
we're now talking about the promises made for the stakeholders. That's the brand promise. So the nation, Nigeria, what is that they have promised its citizens? So in other words, we talk about value, we talk about equity, we talk about trust in all that you do. And so in doing that, you have to try as much as you can. You have a connection with the citizen. You have the connection with the stakeholders. So, and once there is a disconnect, when that promise, because when we're now talking about the challenge in the branding, is when there is a disconnect between the promises made to the stakeholders. And these stakeholders in this direction, we're not talking about each citizen and all that. But we now said, to effectively manage this situation, we have to understand, and that's why I'm very, very happy with what you talked about there, the issue of the criticism we now talked about here. And we're now talking about the issue that has to do with diagnostic criticism. In other words, you don't just wake up and start saying anything just like that. We're not talking about criticism that is based on fact. So, in other words, you have analyzed the situation, you have identified the cause, you have tried to as much as you can to look at the causative factors responsible in any, if it is a parastatal, if it is a ministry, or it is an agency, you are able to identify them. And once you identify them, the next thing you have to try as much as you can to also come up with what can now be there in that area so that you come up with solution. But talking about demarketing is basically amplifying the systemic flaws. In other words, when there are systemic flaws, you now try to amplify them beyond proportion. And you do that with the sole intention to demarket, to devalue, and as a matter of fact, to reduce the entity among its own stakeholders. These are the challenges that are there. And so what is expected, we have to try as much as we can to make sure that as somebody, because the key issue is about citizen engagement. And what is expected is that we all have to try as much as we can to make sure that the citizen do what is right. And by doing that, is for us to talk about doing things that are key. Because you have to understand that when you want to embark on, diagnostic criticism, diagnostic criticism can be done in three phases here. For example, maybe talking about 70% contextual rule. When I talk about 70% contextual rule, I'm not talking about 70% you try as much as you can to analyze the challenges that are there. But you have to try as much as you can. The 30%, you are coming up with a solution, probable solution, option, alternative, so that when people look at it, they now see it. Not when you now make a statement, and at the end of the day, there are no solutions in that area. And then the other part of criticism that is there is that when we talk about solution-oriented criticism. Solution-oriented criticism is when you now make criticism and then you try as much as you can to profile solution so that those criticisms made, you now be used to that at the end of the day, you now summarize it and send it clearly that way. But the other one that is there is what we call separation of the state and the sovereignty of the nation or whatever. So whatever kind of criticism you are going to do, you should be able to make a distinction between the state and the sovereign body, so that whatever you are going to do shouldn't be in such a way that will affect the corporate existence or the reputation or damaging the nation, like the statement of Nigerian youths are unemployable. That is the demarketing statement. And that statement, you don't just embark on generalization, because you must have your scientific evidence to be able to make such a statement. And I know very well, based on the scientific evidence that are there, a lot of Nigerians are great ambassadors in respective nations in all over the world, in various sectors, both in engineering, in medicine. There is no human endeavor that Nigerians are not leaders in that area. So what is expected is to emphasize that the key issues that need to be there should indeed be handled that way. Then what is it that the influencers are to do? Talking about now the influencers, because they are very, very key. We're talking about the celebrities. There is no doubt about it. Celebrities command a lot of respect in our society because of the ample opportunity, ample control audience that they do have. So what is it that they're expected to do? It is expected that as a celebrity, fast-checked for whatever you need to communicate. You do not communicate something without fact-checking. In other words, it is not after making, because what they do is to see the volume of clicks. The volume of clicks, the number of people that clicks on their on what they have forwarded and all these things. So their major concern is commanding the followership and all these things. But what need to be there so that as a celebrity, so that you are citizen driven, you have to try as much as you can to do a fact check before embarking on whatever needs to be communicated. And then you should try as much as you can to focus on systemic solution. Focus on systemic solution. So in other words, if there is any challenge in any parastatal or in any agency or in any system that you're now trying to raise the solution, instead of over amplifying the challenges that are there, also come up with systemic solution. In other words, in these parastatals, we have identified these challenges, and on the basis of those challenges that we have identified, these are also the solution that once amplified or when utilized can be used in remedying the situation. These are some of the things that are needed to be put in that area. And then we need to avoid blanket generalization. Avoid blanket generalization so that you don't just make a statement that at the end of the day, all is there. So that's the more reason why we need to understand those things clearly, to understand that there is no doubt about it in our own society today. Those critical issues are valid, are important. So we need to understand the distinction between the idea that has to do with the criticisms as well as the demarketing. So we need to get it clear. Criticism is allowed, is acceptable. But what makes it acceptable is when you now criticize and then come up with probable solution. It's not just for you to embark on amplification of systemic flaws. Oh, the government is not doing this, the government is not doing that. But what have you said? So even when you said, so you have to try as much as we can to make sure that the demarketing shouldn't be, but rather proactiveness, citizen engagement, and effective communication, so that whatever need to be done, they will be done mutualism, and there will be support and excellence in all that is expected to be done. So we need to have that in the back of our mind. Talking about this one, diagnostic criticism, which is about criticism based on facts, and then of course demarketing, when you now embark on amplification of systemic flaws, just like that, with the intention of devaluing or reducing the entity or the body in whatever angle. Because marketing is all about strategic positioning, it's all about strategic branding, it's all about strategic placement. So on this note, I want to say that Nigeria as a country is in the position to be strategically placed, to be strategically branded, to be strategically well packaged. And that's what the key elements of marketing need to be entrenched in those directions. Thank you so much. These are just my opening remarks for now.
Oh,
and I want
thank
to
you
commend
very
this
much.
opportunity for being the one that is together with Baba Mifarumbi. And after this engagement, take note. I need to get in touch with Baba so that will continue with communication. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was a great one, Pro. You have covered quite, a large space, and that's a very beautiful one. And one of the major issues that we have all agreed that must be confronted frontally, it is that it is wrong for anyone, no matter how highly placed, to commit an error of generalization by saying that Nigerian graduates are not employable. I want to assure you we are going to work more on that. Now we go to Baba. We have had issues in the country where some make some generalizations. We have had issues whereby people make unsubstantiated statements. And which happens to border on the reputation of the country. So we want to know, does the state have a moral or strategic right to intervene when citizens begin to make expressions that harm national reputation? What should be the intervention of the state? Does the state have a moral or a strategic, approach that can be adopted when maybe people begin to make, statements, generalizations that can harm the integrity, the reputation, and the image of the country? Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Of course, the state or the government has a responsibility to ensure that there is political stability and there is growth and development of the country. So when people make statements that
Go on, sir. Go on, sir. I think we lost. Can you hear us, sir? Fire on, sir. Oh, the network is bad over there. Hello, sir. Okay. We are back, sir. You can go on, sir. We cannot hear you. Volume, sir. Volume.
Baba is muted, though.
Baba, please unmute.
all right, am I with you now?
Yes, sir. You are in, sir. You are fine, sir.
Okay. The responsibility of government in this is to state the bare facts, the truth, where the truth has been subverted, where falsehood has been presented as the truth. The government has a right to do this. But beyond that, taking other actions may begin to be an interference with the people's right. The right to know, the right to discuss, the right to exchange views. These are the things that government must do. Government must not become the decider of everything. Government must not take over responsibility of providing answers for everything. Government must not become a dictator. It must not become a terrorist in the country that they own. They must not think that they are not the only patriot. There are others who are talking are also patriots. So we have to be very careful because government can begin to take over the thinking processes of Nigerians. They may begin to think that their own narrow view is the only view. Where errors have been made, they should correct errors. But where there are no errors, where it is a question of different viewpoint, maybe political viewpoint, maybe because I'm a Democrat, you're a Republican, we are likely to have different approaches to the vision we have for this country. So therefore, we are likely to differ in solution. But where there are no errors of facts, the government has no further responsibility. But when is a deliberate distortion of facts, a deliberate distortion of the truth, then the government has the right to begin to make a correction, to make an education, to make an enlightenment. This is the way I see it. I don't believe it is government responsibility to substitute its own thinking process for the thinking processes of the other. Otherwise, we don't have democracy. Democracy is about making choices by the people. And if they are unable to make these choices, because government is killing the opportunity for others to explain their own approach to economic development, infrastructural growth, and so on and so forth, then we are no longer having democracy. So I believe government responsibility is not to substitute their own view as the only solution, but where errors of facts, where there is a distortion, where there is half truth, where there is half lie, government has a responsibility to explain the totality of the truth and the truth only to the people.
So government has a responsibility to explain the totality of the truth and the truth only to the citizens. That's a very nice place to hang on that question. So individuals, as they have responsibilities in the country, just as the government also has a responsibility to protect the integrity of the country. And we must know that the right of one must not violate the right of the other. Just as one of the ingredients of democracy is for people to be able to interrogate issues, one of the ingredients of democracy is for citizens to be able to voice their opinion. This is done within decorum and without government infusing the right of the people. Thank you so much, sir, Baba Farumbi. We'll go to Professor Samala Mande. After our last conversation last month, a video emerged online and the video went viral about a particular man in the city of Abuja. The man lived outside the country, and I think he invested in some properties in Abuja. Remember, at that meeting of last month, we concluded that the statement, Nigeria has happened to me, should not be part of our lexicon as a nation. Now, people felt that what has happened to that man? If a man got a loan as a claim from another country and he invested that money in the economy of the nation, and suddenly that place was demolished. So what will you say about that statement that Nigeria has happened to me? And how will you interpret it in that situation? Over to you, sir.
This is funny. When I think is a Nigerian phrase. When you hear the street statement phrase where they talk about Nigeria has happened to me, and as a matter of fact, is a negative phrase, and what that means that such an individual, because we need to understand that, like I told you earlier, talking about a brand promise. So, in other words, in this case, the nation promise values, promise predictability, as well as entity to its own stakeholders. Now, the stakeholders are the ones to ensure that the right thing is done clearly here. So, but one of the challenges that has now come up as a result of this kind of development of now say now is that there is a deficit of trust. There is trust deficit in such a situation. And so the person is going with the wrong perception because of the treatment, the deception, that has happened to him because of the fraudulent practice that he must have gone through. And so as this, once that gets that way, making such a statement, oh, Nigeria has happened to me, or may Nigeria not happen to you. That narrative need to be changed to Nigeria should happen to me. And then the narrative should be something positive, something good, so that people will be able to understand. Because when you talk about may Nigeria has not happened to you, is like the promise that Nigeria made to you, the promise has been broken. And because that promise has been broken is not affected, that's why you are saying that may Nigeria has not happened to you. Because the promise that Nigeria has for its citizens is the protection of its own interests, the values, and whatever that the stakeholder are to do. Because when citizen uses such a phrase, it connotes something negative that has happened. And so what is expected for us to do is to try as much as we can to change the narrative. Now, how can we change the narrative so that the whole thing will now change clearly? To change the narrative effectively, we need to try as much as we can to respond to openness and transparency, because anything that is not transparent, that is where you now be seeing dubious things in a situation like that. So there must be immediate response to whatever will have been there. And so to do that effectively, the need for us to change the narrative, there is nothing but to come up with basic action and policies so that at the end of the day, the right perspective, the right positioning will be clear. And to do that, we must have service level agreement to say that when you do this, this is what you have to do. Because when the service level agreement is broken, that is when you now say, oh, Nigeria has happened. That's what they are now saying. Nigeria has happened to you. When there is a disagreement in the service level, you have told somebody this is what you are going to do, and then you're unable to do that. Or maybe you are going to, for example, the services being rendered in the immigration or whatever. And I'm quite sure that there is positive, excellent report from the immigration under the present administration, particularly what the minister is doing when people go there to obtain their passport or whatever, where they talked about, oh, when you get there, you get your passport within a day or whatever. So that is service level agreement. When such a thing is instituted in the way things are done, then that will be there. So it is expected that across agencies, ministries, departments, there should be a way that the impression, the perception that is probably found in some areas, such narrative should be changed. And what they are saying is that when you get to some places, you get those kind of things, it is expected that such a thing can be corrected. And how can we do that? How can we do that? Probably we can come up with the National Reputation Trust Index. National Reputation Trust Index, whereby we can now come up with a framework or come up with institutional mechanism. National Reputation Trust Index, so that with that, such a thing can be institutionalized in various ministries, in various parastatals and agencies to confirm the way our responsible people are now saying concerning such a thing. And then there should be a way to make sure that, yes, let there be a way to have public and excellent response to whatever needs to be done in clear direction. And communicating incrementally, once there is anything that government has done, let there be proper communication so that people know that government has done this thing, and on the basis of that, people have verified that clearly. Then the other issue that needs to also be there is response to crisis communication or crisis mitigation. Once there is any crisis, so that people will not know Nigeria has happened to you. All of a sudden, oh, Nigeria has happened to you because of such a wrong perception. But let it be that there is a change in narrative. And that change in narrative, they have changed. Oh. Can you imagine? It wasn't like this before. Now they have changed. So these are the key issues that need to be there, because when we are talking about this, they need to change those percentages, talking about the strategic institutional action that can be put in place towards changing the perception, the statement of Nigeria, this phrase, may Nigeria not happen to you. Nigeria should happen to you when whatever you demand is attended to you appropriately without any delay. And then once there should be effective communication of milestones that have been achieved. What am I talking about? About milestones that have been achieved. If there is so megawatts that has been achieved, such a communication should be done effectively, so that people will know on that one And then the other issue is that if there is any, so that there shouldn't be a situation whereby government will make a statement that sounds vague, and then the citizen will now discover that what is there is not true. So you change the narrative by insisting that what you want to be done has been done. And here, these are the evidence. So, and those evidence must be scientific, fact finding, based, so that effective communication is clearly stated. If we now, so how many people were now, government should not be involved in what we call reactive communication. So when we're talking about reactive marketing here, government shouldn't be reactive, but rather what proactive. And so being proactive is when you now try as much as you can to make sure that whatever you are doing, you include the stakeholders. As you include the stakeholders, you now see that whatever needs to, even if there are flaws, the stakeholders will be the one to manage the situation and communicate effectively. So there must be effective communication of incremental milestones that have been achieved, and then response to crisis mitigation when there are crises happening anywhere. So you don't have to delay, or you don't have to give a different or counter response, but rather the response should be transparent, immediate, and open, so that there will be citizen engagement, stakeholders will believe in you, and they will understand what you are talking about. And any attempt to change the whole thing, then it will now amplify a wrong perception. So that's the more reason why we all have to try as much as we can. And then this, to insist that, yes, what is the service level agreement? This is what we said. Like the man you talked about, I'm giving you an example of the man now. Where did he get, where did he go through some agents? Are those agents valid? Did he go to the ministry or to the parastatal to go to where he is to go and buy the land? Or he used through some fraudulent brokers? So these are some of the things that need to be found out and all this. So that's why in solving this kind of situation, there should be SOP, what we call standard operating procedures, in terms of acquiring a land. Some of these SOP should be well displayed. And if it is something that needs to be automated online, so people now requesting for such a thing, buying for land online, so that can now be done. And then in that kind of a thing, there will be data, there will be effective information, and the idea of using tout, because what the man went through is the toutish experience in the purchase of a land. And the way to resolve those kind of things is when we talk about openness, transparency, and indeed focus driven. And that can be done when we talk about SLA. When we talk about SLA in the marketing parlance, because we're talking about branding here, we're not talking about service level agreement. Service level agreement. You are requesting for a service. So these are the agreement for this service. These are your own terms. These are the conditions. When you do this, we'll do this. So those things should be clearly spelled out. And aside from that one, the next thing that needs to be done is what I talked about from time to time. Whatever milestone that have been achieved, is it in the health sector? Is it in the transportation sector? Is it in the educational sector? All those things should be clearly, be projected. Today, the government talking about NELFON. Now, the NELFON program were there. Those things need to be highly protected, so that state by state, university by university, these are so that those things can be effectively promoted, be projected, and well distilled. And that is not the only one, like I told you about, talking about the need for response, for any communication. So there shouldn't be delay if there is any mitigation. So you don't have to talk about challenges in those areas, but now to be working towards ensuring that these are critical points that need to be handled. And in doing that, effective governance is that type of governance that has high level of citizen engagement. And that is what is expected to be handled in doing this. So thank you so much. That's what I
Thank you,
have to say
Prof.
for this.
Let me give you a rider to that question, Prof. You just mentioned the issue of NELFON. And unfortunately, you will discover that even the people that are supposed to be direct beneficiaries, most of them don't even know some of these policies. And unfortunately, they go, you discover that things that will not be beneficial, things that appear to be in negative horizon, appears to gain momentum. And because I know of people that, at a point when government had moved to the point of disbursing, to them, they still were not trusting the government. Whereas it have to be something, from the negative perspective, everyone, it would have been everywhere, in every house, in every street, and what have you. And that brings us to the issue of, a strategic and intentional, change of mindset, change of orientation. shifting, to something that is positive that could help us as a nation. We'll still come back to that. Let's quickly go to Ambassador Falombi. We have all agreed that he has transversed, different decades, and he has witnessed so many things in terms of governance, in the country. And I want to ask from his experience, how does he think that, negative? I want him to give us a practical, illustration, just as the issue we have just finished discussing now. How negative language affect the Nigerian system, and our collective, he must have witnessed at least one. Just like he has mentioned to us the one about saying that Nigerian graduates, are not employable. So let's also listen from him if there is another one he wants to share with us, because the nation's attitude towards criticism must have, changed from time to time between then and now. What is that change that he has observed? Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. One thing that really hasn't changed too much is the reaction of government to criticisms, to ideas, to suggestions. There has been this trend of intolerance of different views, intolerance of different suggestions, and thinking that any view that is not yours or not theirs must be politically sponsored or politically manipulated. There has been a general weakness of almost all Nigerian government, civilian and democratic. And the second, of course, is the fact that there's a trust deficit between the people and the government. The people no longer trust. Not that they ever trusted, really. Increasingly, over the years, that gap has been widening. And it's because the people are not considered as important in the democratic process. Information are not disseminated when they ought to be. Achievements are not matched with the reality that they see. Sometimes there are inconsistencies in the statement made by various agencies of government, ending up confusing the people. Another thing that I added to this trust deficit is because of this somersault in ideological positions of a lot of our leaders. What they said in the past is not what they are saying. Or somebody once said fuel subsidy is bad, or there's no fuel subsidy, or that if I get there, I will remove fuel subsidy. And then 4 years again, he said that he's going to reinstall fuel subsidy. It creates confusion in the minds of the people. They begin to ask, who is even speaking the truth? Is there fuel subsidy indeed? If there's no fuel subsidy, then what is this thing you have been removing? Because the removal has started with the military regime. So there's confusion, and that leads to a lot of gap in trust deficit. And that is because, in my view, a lot of the people who speak for government do not in fact speak for government. They only do a reaction, just like Professor has said. They react to what has been said. They don't realize that their primary responsibility is to market the government. This is what we promised. This is how far we have gone. We have not done this because of this problem. The people are not dumb. If you let them know what the problems are, they are going to appreciate it. But to begin to manipulate, to begin to blame others, or to blame people who left 60 years ago for what is happening today, gives the people the impression that government is not working, even when it is working. I think those who speak for government or those who market the government ought to be properly trained. And I can say the fact that you have been a good journalist or you have been a good media man does not mean you will be able to market the government. It is a specialization. Marketing the achievement of government, knowing when to speak, knowing when to react, knowing what information to give, managing even the flow of information. These are things that some of them do not know at all. And I think marketing communication is a whole special field that some of them ought to learn and to learn properly. Just reacting to what one opponent has said does not help the people. And then building this trust. Let me give an example. We've just launched $1 billion something. If you ask an average Nigerian, you say they are telling lies, even when they are speaking the truth.
Yeah.
Because they don't give enough facts. This $1 billion, this is how it will be dispersed per local government or per ward or per state. Just like Professor had said, on the Nile Fund, we'll be told so much in bulk has been given. We know how many universities there are. What are gone to university X, Y, Z? What are gone to this state? What are gone to this local government? The people will not be able to verify, because verification of facts is important to building trust. When you just say we have done this and they cannot find it, or you said you have built a road and they cannot find the road, or you say power is increasing and the power grid is collapsing per week, then you are widening the trust. And I believe that for us to be able to move forward, to build a better nation, those who are in charge of governance must be more open. Governance is very opaque in Nigeria. They should be more open, and they should realize, particularly for those who are out there in the diaspora, and we need a lot of their resources to be able to build this country. I serve as an ambassador in Philippines. The money from the diaspora is the second largest source of income for Philippines. So if you are not open, if you don't let the people know what processes, must they come to Abuja to even buy land? Can they access it through network and so on and so forth? Must they see a tout? All of these things we should take care of. But more importantly, I believe that those in government looking for spokesperson should look for those who are specifically trained in the art of marketing communication, marketing services, marketing ideas, marketing vision, not just a question of issuing releases and getting involved in power play. It is the lack of professionalization in this marketing of communication that has created a lot of problems for Nigeria. And I would love to see a change in that aspect.
Thank you very much. I want to agree with you that for some time now, the managers of the nation have been reactive, and rather than solving most of the problems for the people they create, in the process of trying to solve a problem, the communication creates another problem. And that is one of the issues we looked at last month, and we have communicated that appropriately. We want to believe that things will change with time. Oh, we are running out of time now, and I want to take some questions. I have loads of questions. I wonder people have taken time to type all these questions, and we have about 30 minutes. I can see some people have raised their hands already. We were still going to look at it. Let me quickly read these questions. The first one goes to Professor Mandy. He said, Professor Mandy, the second communique resolved that is the communique of our last month. Okay, resolved that nation branding campaigns must be professionalized and led by NIPR, NIMN, and ACON. Our citizens increasingly distrust government-led initiatives, which we have also established today. So that was on point number 16 of our last month's communique. As a fellow of all three of these professional bodies and as president of the Academy of Money, you are arguably one of the few individuals in the country position to translate the resolution into actionable frameworks. More pointedly, how do we design a national communication architecture? I know you have mentioned that in the course of your discussion, that earns citizen trust in an environment where, as the communique knows, suspicion towards national achievements is a growing psychological trend that erodes trust in public institutions. That was point number 8. So then to Baba Farombi, I will quickly go to that one too, so I will take the question before we go back to the boardroom. Good evening, Baba Farombi. Sir, you have served Nigeria both as a journalist who held power, accountable, and as a diplomat whose duty was to project Nigeria's best image abroad. In a recent interview of yours, you gave a damning verdict that Nigerians to be blamed for the woes confronting the country. And you have warned that Nigeria is facing a survival problem and drifting towards a one-party state. Yet you have also dedicated your life to serving and defending this nation. In your considered view, at what precise point does a citizen's honest, critical assessment of national failure cross? I think we have addressed that. Let me move to the next one. I think we have addressed that. The Baba may still want to make 1 or 2 points on that. Then the second one for Professor Mande. Professor Mande, the second communique of Valley Network Global Discourse knows that Nigeria's 70% youth population should act as deliberate citizen brand ambassadors. Here, the same document acknowledges that Nigerians themselves often supply the negative content, which Professor Mande has also alluded to this afternoon. Later used globally to discredit the nation. Okay, as a scholar of marketing communication who has studied how messages are produced, disseminated, and received, and as an academic leader at National Open University of Nigeria, an institution uniquely positioned to reach learners across the nation's diverse communities, what pedagogical and communicative strategies will you propose to transform young Nigerians from reflexive critics into constructive patriots? That's a nice one. That's a nice one. That's a nice one. Then somebody has also, okay, let me stop at that point. Over to you, Professor Mande. Can you quickly approach that?
Thank you very much, my brother, for what you said, and let me try as much as I can to get to what the fellow said. Because the questions are in a double packed, so to say.
Yes, yes,
and so
yes.
because they are double packed, let me quickly get to where the person stated them. Is it okay? This was for the ambassador. Okay, Professor Mande. He said the second communique resolved that nation branding campaigns must be professionalized and led by NIPR, NIMN, and ACRON as citizens increasingly distrust government-led initiative. That is it. In other words, it was one of the issues there. He now said, as a fellow of the 3 of these professional bodies, and as president of the Academy of Man.
Was on Monday, we lost you there. We lost Professor Monday there. Professor Monday. Okay, can we go to Professor Farombi? Why, despite the challenges over time, you still continuously believe in the project Nigeria?
It's because I know Nigerians. I know they are wonderful people. I know they are resourceful people. I know they have capacity that many, many other nations don't have. The only thing is to catalyze this.
That's good. We need to catalyze it to action. Yeah.
I think this is what we need. The people are good. They are ready. They are only willing to be rightly led, openly led, professionally led, in truth. And indeed, that's all we need.
That's loaded. Nigerians are good. They only need people to lead them right. Yeah, we'll go to the next one, and that is also directed at Bafalombi. It says, for quite a while now, seeing how low in standards and trust the country is falling, yet government continues to color truth. My question is, what really has Nigeria as a country done to our privileged leaders who have benefited so much from the goodies of this country, yet with their eyes open, are seen to be widely destroying the country itself with their purported services, contributions translated as greedy, selfish, and insensitive?
Thank you so much. The leaders are led by the people. The leaders are elected by the people. A mango tree will not produce an orange fruit because the society itself is suffering from some decadence, moral decadence, structural decadence, spiritual decadence. So a lot of our leaders that we produce are also products of this decadence. So until we, the people of Nigeria, begin to hold our leaders accountable, the senators live amongst us, the House of Rep, the House of Assembly, the commissioner, the minister, they are children of somebody, they are relations of some people. What is it that we do to impact on what they do? Do we ask them questions as individuals, or we just go there to collect some money? You see, until we, the people, begin to think right and begin to ask the right question and begin to impose our views on the leadership, we're going to keep on having leaders that take us for granted. It's because Nigerians take themselves for granted. That is why their leaders take them for granted. And I think that we ought all, because this is a democracy, the government of the people, for the people, by the people. We, the people, must begin to think right. We, the people, must begin to do the right thing. We must begin to do things right. Unless we do that, we will have no capacity, we will have no right, in fact, to question the leadership that we have. And until we begin to question them, they will continue to do what they do the wrong way. But if we know they are wrong, let us, as citizens, family members, begin to tell them when we have opportunity to meet them, not just keep quiet and hope only a few people will talk on our behalf.
Thank you very much, sir. We must continue as Nigerians, we must continue to interrogate issues, which is one of the benefits of a platform as this. And we cannot wait for the government at the center to know what is happening in the nooks and crannies of everywhere. We have leaders at our local environments that we must ask questions. And it is better now than before, such that individuals can come up and generate ideas and ask questions. And if at all they are not offering responses, just like there are some interventions we have initiated that there has not been appropriate and commensurate responses. But the fact remains that you can engineer a little change here and there. And if Mr. A will engineer a little change in his corner and Mr. B will do that, very soon it will make a significant effect. Thank you, Ambassador Farombi, for that great summation. We'll see how our time is almost running now, so we'll quickly take people that want to call in. I know I saw the hand of Dr. Arowojolu. Please, can you unmute Dr. Arowojolu? And after that, on Mr. Okonlade Lawal Adebowale. So we have just two that we will take now before we go back to the question.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ogunjobi. In my own rating, this will be the best of the best of the Valid View Network show.
Thank you very much, sir.
I give it to Baba. Baba will never say no to a discourse that is positive, that is developmental like this. I thank you, Daddy Ekwefunwa. I also thank Professor Mandy. I hope Baba eventually proves to be not just the JD, but the woman. Well, having said this, the video that Dr. Ogunjobi referred to, if you watch that video, you will weep for not only the man, you will weep for the country. Somebody is saying maybe he fell into wrong hand. Is it not a country where you have fake agencies directly linked to people, to principalities in Aso Rock? And as we speak, there are many more of such fake agencies. See, Nigeria should be run properly. The Bible says truth or righteousness exalt a nation. Sin is a reproach. That word sin means when wrong becomes right, when black becomes white. What were we actually expecting? I think Baba mentioned he didn't run away from that fact that the media aids of government are misrepresenting government. That is, by being reactive. A discourse like this, they will not attend. Many of them, when the stories hit the front page tomorrow, you will see them, being reactive. That's not the way. They are just drawing salaries for doing nothing. Well, Nigeria we will stop using that phrase. Nigerians, may Nigeria never happen to me, when we are being rightly led, when we have people of integrity leading us, when we will not have cover up, we will not have people who are afraid to tell us, where they come from, who are afraid to tell us who they are. These are really the problem. People are hiding away from the truth. You see, the truth is the truth. It needs no borrowed gown. I was at Dubai, sometimes 2015, and I entered a Pakistani shop. He asked me, say, am I an African? And I told him, I said, I'm a Nigerian. And the next thing he says, Nigeria, jaga, jaga. Oh, we may blame that Abdul Rashid, what is the name? Abdul Karim, who wrote the song. But even if somebody is trying to demarket Nigeria, there should be leadership that will fix it. Go and see all our electric poles. Look at how things are, jaga, 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 jaga. Is it not correct? After about 20, that's 11 years now, these things have not been fixed. And we have leaders who tell us we will do electricity by all means. But if I don't do it, don't vote for me. That's where I stand. My own interest, I'm sorry, is governance.
Okay.
We begin to hit that area. I know I have taken so much time.
Yes,
but
please, so that we can take others.
Okay,
Governance,
thank you.
the government must sit up and do the needful. Over to you, Okunlade Lawal Adebowale. Please unmute Okunlade Lawal Adebowale.
Thank you, sir. I listened attentively to the contributions and expression of our resource persons. And I believe that Nigeria is in decadence today, not just because of the citizen, but because of leadership. The mindset of any politician in Nigeria is to be in Aso Rock or at state government houses to amass wealth, with the mindset that what they are going there is to lie to people. On any issue, just come up and lie to them. And more importantly, especially this administration, because I had former governor of Ekiti State, that's Fayemi, in a forum, when he was making reference to the last administration of Jonathan, that not that Jonathan was not doing right, he was actually doing rightly, but because they are bent on being in power, that is why they go on to keep the marketing whatever he does. So definitely in Nigeria, our leadership are the problem, and they never wanted the truth, but the treason, and that is what is trending today. And as we have all been said, they are always reactive, even to constructive criticism. So my question now is, what do we do to this set of people who are taking the lead today and giving their control of power, even on the electoral process? Will Nigeria be ever out of this shackle? That's my question and contribution. Thank you, sir.
That's $1 million question. We'll throw the question back to Professor Mande. Our
All
leaders
right.
taking us for granted. How can we get out of this shackle?
All right. Thank you very much. And let me, in a way, try as much as I can to respond to the earlier one before coming to this one now, so that we'll all be on the same page. First, the question is about the involvement, having these professionals and all these things. What can we do? I'm very happy that it is a communique. What is expected in a communique is that the points listed in the communique are to be acted upon. So meaning that those stakeholders that are there supposed to now come up with the strategic team towards actualizing what was found in the communique. And so far, so good. I want to believe that the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, if the members are on the platform here and hearing what I'm talking about, which means it is key for them to look at it in that angle, so that we can all, be part of the effort of the valid network on what they are doing. Aside from that one, the Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria can equally see what they can do. The members are here on the platform. Some of them are here. So it is now a challenge for us. We have to try as much as we can to change the narrative. And in doing that, we must be sincere. We must all be sincere in whatever we're doing. Now, the question that the other person told me that with all this, how can we come up with the communication strategies that we can now work towards this, particularly for the citizens? There's no doubt about it. We can do that. And that is in any communication plan. Let me come up with a formula here. SUBMEBE. By SUBMEBE, I'm talking about S start with situation analysis. For whatever we're to do, we got to analyze the situation. And then we need to also have the objective. The objective for whatever we need to be clearly stated. And then the other one, we need to talk about the media and techniques. The media we're going to use need to be clearly identified, and then we need to think of the techniques. Because when you choose the media, you also have to think of the technique. You don't just talk about radio or television. If you talk about radio, is it going to be radio announcement or it's going to be radio jingle? You only have to talk about the technique that will not be applied in that area. For the one linking it to my operational environment as a professor in the National Open University of Nigeria, what can we now do in that aspect? There's no doubt about it. We start with the orientation. And that is the more reason why the students, as they're coming with the exposure and knowledge of civic education. And civic education being one of the courses in the institution today, we now see how we can now get that in that direction. And so because of that one too, our various orientation and the curriculum that is being designed, the program being worked out and all this, with the effort of the National Universities Commission, talking about the effort of what they now come about the curriculum review, CC Mass, some of this idea of citizen engagement. Nigeria should see themselves at whatever level as ambassadors, as marketers, as promoters of their country in a positive way. So these are some of the things based on what some of the person talk about, and with what the other person now talked about. What is the way? What can we now do for these people? Let me start by saying that one of the statements that our elder statesman made here today, which I'm quite sure when we come to that after we'll talk about it, it is the issue that has to do with those who are managing the government communication organ. And so communication organs or communication mark promotion or whatever. It is not. It is not journalism. It is not broadcasting, and it is not what right. And I'm happy with what our boss talked about here. It is specialized on its own, where you talk about the art and science of managing and promoting an entity. And so, if it is a nation, like I told you earlier, the nation should be seen as to be a product. And if it is a product, if you have a product, what do you want it to? What do you want to do? You want your product to be purchased. You want your product to be loved. You want the product to be accepted. You want your product to be seen at any point in a favorable image, but not to be seen in the light one. And like you talked about this, like what the person talked about, using the example of what Dr. Fayemi talked about.
Go on, sir. Prof.
Hello? With what? Yeah, I mean,
you want to round up? Yes, sir.
No, yes, I'm trying to now see to that. So on what you talked about, it is very clear that leaders at any point in time, they need to understand clearly that they are not in leadership without the citizen. And so there must be a way to see that you govern, you lead your people in such a way that there is engagement. Because once there is a disconnect between the leaders and the citizen, there will be a problem. And what we are trying as much as we can to do is to now see that there should be that harmony, there should be that mutualism. If you're in leadership position, what were those gaps that you identified? The gaps identified is what you're now coming up with the solution. And in doing that solution, involve the citizen to proffer solution for whatever you are to do. And that is what is expected.
Let me stop you there, Prof. Because of our time, let me stop you there. One of the things which you have just mentioned in passing now that I have seen contributed immensely to some of the challenges we have now is lack of civic education. I remember yesteryears in the 80s, 90s, an average student in secondary school will do civic education. And that would have helped to know some of these things that are now confronting us as a nation. But I want to believe we will see get to that. We'll ask from relevant agencies of government to know the current situation of things. You have talked about curriculum. I think curriculum is also an important ingredient in this discourse. People should know what they should do at any point in time so that they do not wait till when there is a problem before they hazard a solution to the problem. They should not wait. Like most people may not, some of their actions may be unintentional. By virtue of what they heard people say, by virtue of what they heard people do, they also join the bandwagon, which may be an issue that we have to consider again. We want to thank you immensely for your contributions. I think we have one last question. Do we have any question in the chat box? No, for now. Okay, somebody just commended Professor and Baba for a job well done. So I want to ask, this is going to Baba. Okay, this is going to Baba. As a former ambassador, how do statements made by Nigerians, especially public figures, okay, we have gone past that. Now we want just a takeaway statement from you. A takeaway statement from Baba. Then we go to final statement from Professor. Now we have identified the fact that we can criticize without necessarily demarketing. We have identified the fact that individuals can interrogate issues without doing it to affect the image of the country. We have also identified the fact that the government has a responsibility in shaping the top line of people. And that our citizens, despite the fact that citizens have a responsibility, in ensuring that they follow what the government wants, the citizens also have a responsibility to protect their own self-esteem. And the government realizing the fact that this is a democracy, and one of the ingredients of democracy is for people to be able to ventilate their opinion without, violating any, any law. So having come to this level, what would be and I know people have had some of the statements, some of the categorical statements that Abba has made, that Prof has made. and they carry a lot of weight. By the time we put them together, we are going to make the communique available to everyone, to interact with and to process. So we want to listen to you today. Now that this thin line have been delineated, now that the world knows that, and Nigerians globally know that, yes, you can interrogate the issues positively, what will be your, and now that we also know that the bodies that are concerned, we also do something pragmatic to ensure that people are rightly informed, and that the people managing communication of government at various levels, we also ensure that they are proactive rather than being reactive. What will be your final comment at this point? Over to you, Baba Farumbi.
My final comment. Nigerians must never give up on Nigeria.
Nigerians must never give up on Nigeria. That's solid. Thank you very much, sir. Over to you, Professor Monday.
All right, thank you very much. I want to say that as a final parting word, that in any given situation, at whatever level, Nigeria first. Nigeria first should be the key word. And when talking about Nigeria first, we need to understand that it's all that has to do with its integrity, its nationhood, and its focus in development. At all time, Nigeria first. Nigeria first. That should be our slogan. And what that means that whatever we are going to do, we should always be talking about achieving the best for our nation and sense of oneness in all our dealings. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Our global audience, wherever you are watching from, I want you to just give a shout out to Baba and Professor. Today, just go ahead and give a shout out to them online. Yeah, go ahead. I can see Abayomi, like wherever you are just give a shout out to them. They have been able to, give us the thin line. It's a delicate thin line between patriotism and demarketing, and that they have been able to create for us, and they have been able to chart a course for us towards, identifying the differences between critique and patriotism, and reminding us that as a nation, we have a responsibility to the nation beyond every other thing. And let us also go with this takeaway that Nigeria will be great again, and Nigerians must work assiduously towards ensuring that we revamp Nigeria. Let us keep challenging, let us keep interrogating, let us keep believing. And very soon, one day, Nigeria shall be great. If Baba is believing, those of us that are followers must believe. We do not have any reason whatsoever not to believe. On this note, I want to inform us that we have come to the end of the August edition of the global discourse. By the grace of God, this time last Sunday in the month of September, we'll be bringing up another critical issue for discussion. It may be something relating to education this time around, because there are some issues that are supposed to have been at the front burner. But before then, you have the communique of this meeting. The news should be out in the next 48 hours. And after that, the communique will be out. You can get the communique on our website, and it will also be sent to some other relevant agencies of government. So today, I'm Kayode Ogunjobi from Valley View Network, and we have brought this third global discourse to you. Join us next month. For now, I say goodbye. We thank Baba for this wonderful time he has spent at this age, still contributing. We thank Prof. For firing from all cylinders. That was a great one. That was a wonderful one. And we hope that when next we call upon you to interrogate an issue, you will be available to provide solutions to some of these issues towards ensuring that we expand the knowledge base of our people. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank
Bye
you very
for
much,
now.
Valley Network. I tried to chat me with Baba's number so that I can now greet him later.
I will
Professor.
do that.
All
Yeah.
right.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank you,
all.
Baba. Baba, we really appreciate you, sir. Ẹ pẹ́ fún wa, sir. God bless you, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Baba Osho, Honorable Comrade Baba Osho Ololuwa Razak. Thank you. Thank you, Professor Gboyega Adebayo. Thank you, Mr.